me now is President Joe Biden's Council of Economic Advisors Chair Jared Bernstein. Jared, first of all, let's bring it into the economic prism. What would have this? What effect do you believe this would have had it been allowed to go through?
Well, first of all, great to be with you. In the memo, they said something to the tune of $3 trillion that they were talking about rescinding. Now, that looked pretty high to me, and later in the day, they seemed to take some of that back. But that would have been macroeconomically significant, as you well know, and highly microeconomically significant for a bunch of people who would be hurt by the losses incurred there. But I also think there's a somewhat bigger problem here, in that this kind of policy lurching is pretty much bad news for those of us who'd like to see a bit more policy certainty going forward. And I might include Chair Powell as one of those people.
Do you applaud, though, the effort to cut spending? There might be a whole bunch of programs that are either redundant or not in line with certain views that really kind of got President Trump elected.
Well, I'd be careful with the ideological part of that, but definitely any program that's fraught with waste or scams, obviously ought to be cut. But frankly, no question, there's hundreds of billions of dollars that could be cut from the federal budget. I know that because we proposed cuts of those magnitudes. The question is, can you just do these kind of sweeping measures without rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work of figuring out what's meat and what's fat? You really have to do the latter, and I think they're learning that the hard way.
One thing that has not been at least officially stopped or blocked or challenged or rescinded is his push to deport the most violent of immigrants. The big question is whether that will spread to all immigrants who entered the country illegally. That actually was a question that was brought up to Fed Chair Powell today about, have you modeled for the effect that mass deportations might have? Let's listen to his response, and then I'd like to hear your perspective.
One of the things our staff does is they look at a range of possible outcomes, and they tend to go from really good to really bad, and it's one of the best things that they do. And in each teal book, you can look at the 5-year-old teal books and see their alternative simulations. So that's what they do. There'll be a baseline, and then they'll show 6 or 7 alternative scenarios, including really good ones and not so good ones. And what those do is they spark the policymakers to sort of think and understand about the uncertainties that surround this. So yes, the staff does that, and we're all well aware that the range of possibilities is always broad.
Anything beyond just the violent criminals? How do you foresee that affecting the U.S. economy and maybe even sectors like construction?
That's exactly where I was going to go with that. You stole my theme there.
Sorry.
Construction. So look, I mean, we're on the same page. I understand that Chair Powell wanted to talk about a range of results, and he did that almost any time policy came up today, and he's very much, I have to see what it does before we think about how it influences our interest rate policy. If you deport a bunch of construction workers, you're going to have a supply shortage in construction that's going to push up wages. That's going to probably ding a housing market that's already really struggling. Now, that's not a statement about whether we should or shouldn't deport folks who are here without documentation. That's just a simple supply statement. And where you took it is exactly right. I think it's better to think about this. It's more correct analytically to think about this sectorally specific, because undocumented workers disproportionately work in many of the low-wage sectors, along with construction.
Before we go, you were the architect of at least one of them, of Bidenomics, Jared. Let's talk about egg prices really quickly. Fox Business had put out a story. Everybody jumped all over it, and it was that egg prices are expected to see a more than 20% increase in the coming year. Now this is Donald Trump's problem. He's got to figure out a way to get egg prices down. The messaging was from the Biden administration just didn't seem to get through, and that is part of the reason that he did not get to run for re-election and Kamala Harris didn't win. What would you do differently?
Well, one of the things that this brings up is whether the president can really do much about grocery prices. And Donald Trump, I think, learned the hard way pretty quickly that that's a lot easier said than done. He said he was going to lower grocery prices, certainly with eggs and I think probably other groceries. We know that those prices are rising. They're not falling. There's been some disinflation, but there's not been deflation. Presidents just don't have a button to push, a lever next to the Resolute desk that gets you to lower grocery prices. So look, we tried to do some things to increase competition in the meatpacking sector. That's a longer term play. It's just a very hard thing for a president to do.
Tough to move the needle no matter who you are. Jared, great to see you. Thank